Alexander Drake sat alone on a weathered park bench, his $1,000 suit jacket folded beside him. His tie loosened for the first time in what felt like years. The afternoon sun filtered through the oak trees above, casting shifting patterns across the gravel path where joggers and dog walkers passed without a glance in his direction. He'd driven here without thinking, his hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly as the walls of his glass office closed in around him. 42 years old. More money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes, and he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt anything except tired. He closed his eyes and listened to the sounds around him. Children laughing somewhere near the playground. Birds calling to each other. The rustle of leaves that reminded him of summers from his childhood. Before the company. Before the endless meetings and the pressure that sat like a stone in his chest. "Excuse me, mister." Alexander opened his eyes to find a little girl standing in front of him, maybe 6 years old, with brown hair pulled into 2 uneven pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. She wore a yellow sundress with a grass stain on the knee and clutched a stack of colorful papers against her chest. "Hi there," he said, managing a smile that felt rusty on his face. She tilted her head, studying him with the unfiltered curiosity only children possess. "You look sad." The observation hit him harder than it should have. He'd spent months presenting confidence to boardrooms full of investors, projecting success in every interview, and this child had seen through it all in 3 seconds. "I guess I am a little sad," he admitted, because lying to her seemed impossible somehow. She nodded seriously, then thrust one of her papers toward him. "This is for you." He took it carefully. It was a birthday invitation, handmade, with crayon drawings of balloons and cake covering every inch. The letters spelling out the details were written in careful, crooked handwriting that had clearly taken great effort. Emma's 7th birthday party. Saturday at 2 p.m. His throat tightened unexpectedly. "My birthday is on Saturday," Emma explained, her voice bright with excitement. "My mom said I could invite 10 people, but most of my friends from school are away on vacation, and my grandma lives too far come." Her smile dimmed slightly. "Mom's been sick, so it's going to be just a small party. But she's feeling better now, and she promised to make chocolate cake, and I really want to be special for her." Alexander looked at the invitation again, seeing the love poured into every detail. "Your mom's been sick?" Emma nodded, her expression growing more serious. "She had cancer, but the doctors said she beat it. She gets tired a lot now, though, and sometimes she tries to hide when she's having a bad day, because she doesn't want me to worry. That's why I want the party to be really good, so she can smile for real, not just a pretend smile she does when she thinks I'm not looking." The weight of her words settled over him. Here was this small person, carrying concerns far beyond her years, thinking about her mother's happiness even on her own birthday. It shamed him. He'd been sitting here drowning in self-pity about a life most people would consider a dream. "So will you come?" Emma asked, hope lighting up her face. "You seem nice, and my mom always says the world needs more nice people. Plus, you look like you could use some cake." He found himself laughing, a real laugh that felt foreign and wonderful. "You know what? I would love to come to your party." Emma's whole face transformed with joy. She bounced on her toes, her pigtails bobbing. "Really? You promise?" Because breaking promises is the worst thing ever. "I promise," Alexander said, and meant it. "I'll be there." "And mister?" Emma leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. "Could you maybe bring something that would make my mom really happy? Not for me, just something to make her smile big. She deserves something special." Before he could respond, a woman's voice called out across the park. "Emma, time to go, sweetheart." Emma waved frantically at a slender woman with the same brown hair, standing near the playground, then turned back to Alexander. "That's my mom. I gotta go. See you Saturday." She ran off, her yellow dress flying behind her, leaving him holding the crayon-covered invitation and feeling something he hadn't felt in months. Purpose. That evening, Alexander sat in his penthouse apartment overlooking the city, the invitation propped against his laptop. He made calls. Within hours, he'd arranged for a local bakery to create a custom cake that would put any store-bought version to shame, ordered decorations that stopped just short of excessive, and contacted a children's entertainment company. But every decision was careful, measured. This wasn't about showing off. This was about giving a little girl and her recovering mother a beautiful day. Saturday arrived bright and clear. Alexander drove to the address on the invitation, a modest duplex in a neighborhood with small yards and tricycles on porches. He dressed in jeans and a casual shirt, leaving the businessman facade behind. His car was loaded with carefully wrapped presents and supplies. Emma spotted him from the front window and came running out, her party dress a swirl of purple and pink. "You came? You really came. I promised, didn't I?" He smiled at her enthusiasm as she grabbed his hand and tugged him toward the door. Inside, Sophie was arranging paper plates on a table, and when she turned to greet him, Alexander saw where Emma got her warmth. Despite the shadows under Sophie's eyes that spoke of recent hardship, her smile was genuine. She wore a simple blue dress and moved with the careful energy of someone still learning to trust her body again. "You must be Alexander," she said, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "Emma's been talking about you all week. I have to admit, I was a little concerned when she said she'd invited a stranger from the park, but she insisted you were coming." "I'm glad she invited me," Alexander said honestly, "and I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of arranging a few things. Nothing over the top, just some additions to help celebrate." Within the hour, the backyard had been transformed. A professional but kid-friendly entertainer arrived with face-painting supplies and balloon animals. The custom cake was unveiled to gasp the delight from Emma and the handful of children who'd come. Alexander had also quietly arranged for flowers to be delivered. Not elaborate arrangements, but cheerful bouquets that brightened the space without overwhelming it. Throughout the party, Alexander found himself watching Sophie. The way she laughed at the children's antics, how she rested her hand on Emma's shoulder as they sang happy birthday, the quiet moment when she pressed her fingers to her eyes and he saw tears there that he suspected were equal parts joy and relief. This woman had fought her way through something terrible and come out the other side determined to give her daughter a happy childhood. When Emma opened his presents, carefully chosen toys and books rather than anything flashy, she threw her arms around his legs in a hug that nearly knocked him backward. "This is the best birthday ever," she declared, and Sophie mouthed, "Thank you," over her daughter's head with an expression that made his chest ache. As the party wound down and the last guest departed, Emma fell asleep on the couch, exhausted and happy. Alexander helped Sophie clean up, working in comfortable silence that felt natural despite having known each other only hours. "You didn't have to do all this," Sophie said finally, rinsing plates in the sink. "It was too much." "It wasn't nearly enough," Alexander replied. "Your daughter gave me something I didn't know I needed. Let me give this back." Sophie turned to look at him, really look at him. She said, "You look sad in the park." I am. He struggled for the right words. "I built this life that looks perfect on paper, but somewhere along the way, I forgot what it was all for." Emma reminded me. Over the following months, Alexander became part of their lives in a way that surprised all of them. He showed up for Emma's school play, sat with Sophie during her follow-up medical appointments when she needed support, brought dinner on nights when Sophie's fatigue made cooking impossible. He never imposed, always asked first, and respected the boundaries of their small family even as he became woven into it. Sophie was proud and private about her struggles, but gradually she let him see the reality of recovery. The medical bills that still arrived, the exhaustion that sometimes pinned her to the couch, the fear that lived in her eyes during checkup weeks. Alexander helped where he could, always framing it as a loan or a favor, never charity, because he understood her need for dignity. For his part, Alexander found his entire world shifting. He still ran his company, still attended meetings and closed deals, but now he left the office at reasonable hours. He turned down international conferences in favor of Saturday morning pancakes with Emma and Sophie. His colleagues noticed a change, the lightness in his step, the genuine smile that had replaced his corporate mask. A year after that first meeting, Alexander found himself back in the same park on an autumn afternoon, Emma between him and Sophie on the bench. The leaves were turning gold and red, and Emma was chattering about her upcoming school project, her small hand clasped in his. "You know what I'm thankful for?" Emma announced suddenly. "I'm thankful that I invited you to my party. Mom said that was the bravest thing I've ever done, asking a stranger. But I knew you were good." Alexander looked at Sophie over Emma's head. They'd grown closer over months, carefully, respectfully, both aware of the precious trust involved. He'd fallen in love not just with her, but with the life they'd built together, with the way they'd taught him that wealth meant nothing if you had no one to share it with. "I think I'm the one who should be thankful," he said softly. Sophie reached across and squeezed his hand, and the gesture held everything they hadn't quite put into words yet. Understanding, gratitude, something deeper that was still growing, rooted in friendship and care, and the thousand small moments they'd shared. The following spring, on a morning when the park was full of flowers and new growth, Alexander brought them back to that same bench. Emma, now 8 and missing 2 front teeth instead of 1, was investigating a butterfly near the flower beds when Alexander took Sophie's hands in his. "A year and a half ago, I came here because I'd lost my way," he said quietly. "I had everything and nothing. And then your daughter gave me an invitation to a birthday party, and you both gave me something infinitely more valuable. You gave me a reason, a home, a family." He pulled out a small velvet box, and Sophie's breath caught. "I know we've taken things slow, and I know you're careful about what you bring into Emma's life. I want to do this right. Sophie, will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Sophie's cheeks as she nodded, and Emma, having noticed the commotion, came running back. "What's happening?" "I asked your mom to marry me," Alexander said, his voice thick with emotion. "If that's okay with you." Emma's eyes went wide. Then she launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck with the full force of her 8-year-old strength. "Are you going to be my dad?" "If you'll have me," he whispered into her hair. "You're my hero," Emma said fiercely. "You made Mom smile again. You made everything better." But as Alexander held them both, Sophie's engagement ring catching the morning light, he knew the truth was more complicated and more beautiful. They'd saved each other. A lonely man, a recovering mother, and a brave little girl had found each other in a park and built something real from crayon invitations and chocolate cake and 1,000 small acts of showing up. True fulfillment hadn't come from his bank account or his company's success. It had come from being present, from choosing connection over isolation, from letting a 6-year-old stranger see his sadness and offer him a place at her party. Emma had been brave enough to invite him into their lives. He'd been brave enough to accept. And that had made all the difference.